Welcome to Academy Global's Business Development Series. In this series, I'll be conducting interviews with a number of our expert faculty. Welcome to Episode 1 of our Business Development Series. I'm Genevieve Malcolm, and in this interview, I will be speaking with Sharon King. Sharon is a faculty member of Academy Global with a 27-year track record of local and international leadership in sales, including 18 years in training and development with leading global and local organisations. Sharon's training experience includes developing and delivering sales enablement tools, coaching and mentoring sales professionals and customer service teams. First of all, Sharon, would you just tell us a little bit about your background?
Sure. So I originally hail from Southern Africa, Zimbabwe, and then South Africa. I spent some time in the US and the UK and then came to Australia in 1992. And I've spent the last 27 years in sales and then training and coaching salespeople for the last 18 years. I work primarily in the freight and logistics centre for premium national and multinational carriers. And when you work in the supply chain, you cross paths with practically every industry that has a need to import, export and distribute, so your span of knowledge becomes very wide in terms of understanding industry verticals and particularly e-commerce.
Having sold and conducted sales training around the world, what have you observed about the similarities and differences between markets and countries?
So there are some differences culturally, which are fairly obvious, so you do need to be aware of that and become a bit of a chameleon with your approach. But in the end, I think it's fair to say that all customers want the same thing. They want the best value and the best price. That doesn't change. Some products are highly transactional and commoditized, and price is an important factor. For example, if it's a large e-commerce company, they're selling 20,000 items a day, 10 cents an item makes a lot of difference. The products can be cheap, so for example, freight costs have to be low with the volumes they do. For others, service quality is more important, and there can be significant impacts and therefore costs on products not meeting deadlines. That said, even in price-driven sales, if you have two suppliers with the exact same price, what's going to make you pick one over the other? It's the value creation. The critical factor is the ability to create value. So who would you pick? Someone who says to you, I can decrease your price for insurance, or someone who says to you, I can show you ways to reduce your risk?
Are great salespeople born, or can they be made?
That's a great question. I think it depends on the salesperson themselves, and I think it's a little bit of both. Some people sell instinctively. They tend to be those who've got a high EQ. Questioning comes naturally to them, and they problem solve for the customer, which really is what selling's all about. It's helping people buy. Others might have the ability to be good, but are lacking experience or skills or confidence. So with a bit of training, these people can catch up and be great also. It all depends on the approach. If you go in with the mindset that you're there to help the customer rather than push your product, half the battle's won. And interestingly, with sales training, in all my experience, the positions on the leaderboard before and after the training actually pretty much stay the same. What I mean by that is while there's an increase in sales productivity and results, the status quo on the leaderboard tend to be maintained because the good people are there for a reason. They are the ones who absorb the training and they stay at the top of the game. And the ones at the bottom show an improvement. However, it's the nature of the beast. They're at the bottom for a reason, and that tends to be maintained. So my experience, with all the experience in the world, it has a great deal to do with their attitude and their level of motivation.
You commenced in sales around 27 years ago. What are some of the things that have changed over the years, and what in sales remains the same?
Yes, so don't let the youthful good looks fool you. So what has changed in sales is predominantly buyer behavior. The customers can now Google anything and everything and get answers in seconds. Most markets have become very commoditized and sales has become very transactional. And customers are spoiled for choice, and they're very smart. They have way more options now and know a whole lot more about everything. So they're able to sit in judgment if they so desire, and they can say to the hapless salesperson, I know more about your product and service than you do. So the salesperson is at risk of becoming obsolete. unless they gain something from the sales experience itself. Ideally, the customer will gain insight, analysis, and expertise that they can't get from the internet or anywhere else. So it's the value of the expertise that they're looking for, not the easily accessible product or service. So it's what the salesperson understands about the marketplace, the customer's business, and the customer's competition that the customer can't acquire through any other means. So then it's incumbent upon the salesperson to know as much about the customer's business as the customer does. Then they need to know just as much about their competition and the customer's competition, and know enough about their own products and services to be able to inform the customer about how they can help the customer. The customers are looking for expertise to solve their problems, and if the salesperson can't give them that, the customer will just look for it from the next person who can.
Sales is a tough gig. How can salespeople remain motivated when times are tough?
So I think in sales you have to have a thick skin no matter whether times are good or bad, because people say no at least 1 in 4 or 5 times. That's pretty normal. So whether the market is good or bad, salespeople need to ensure that they are doing, as a first off, the sales 101. Preparation and research. Being selective about the customers you're going after. Only go after prospects that are in the right stage of the buying cycle and they have a high chance of winning. There's no point aiming for a customer who's just signed a deal with someone else and is only tire kicking or comparing prices. So if you only go after prospects you know you have a fair shot at, it's going to already make your close ratio a lot higher, so you get more yeses than nos. And then after that, it's about, I think, keeping close to your sales family, especially now in the times we're living in. So communication regularly as a team is critical. Everyone should be included and updated. Expectations need to be clear. Setting short-term achievable goals that are shared is important. This creates momentum and keeps the energy up. It enables a sense of achievement of things are ticked off, and it keeps everyone on track and helps to maintain focus. Then inclusivity is important. So everybody at the moment has unique challenges facing their business. So holding virtual sales team meetings where everyone can raise their ideas and solutions, it needs to be an open environment where everyone feels they can speak up and make a valued contribution. If employees are involved in decisions, they will feel that they are needed. And if they feel like they're needed, they will feel more confident in their abilities and motivated to continue delivering value, and everyone feels unified and connected through this challenging time. The narrative is also important, positive messages rather than negative ones, and preparation for the new BAU, whatever that looks like. And lastly, and I think very importantly, this is a great time to be upskilling yourselves. People can figure out which areas they would like further development on and what the future skills requirements they might need post-crisis. There are virtual training courses being offered on various skill sets. So they can make use of those as a whole team or individually. And if budget is an issue, there are other ways such as mentoring. There's plenty of free online tools or by delegating certain tasks which will build upon their skill set. So encouraging salespeople to upskill themselves, for instance, via webinars or even listening to podcasts is really important. Everybody is in the same boat, I guess, and so a lot of people are coming up with innovative ways to help their businesses along, and just listening to what other people are doing is a good idea. Investing in your own personal development or that of your team better equips you all for the future and demonstrates to employees and employers that you care about your success personally as well as for the companies you work for.
Is personal selling still relevant in 2020, or has the internet changed everything?
I think personal selling will always have a place. However, as I mentioned before, the internet has brought a lot of information within the customer's reach. Time is valuable. Time is money. The bar has been raised substantially. So info gathering questions are no longer appropriate, only in the context to set the customer on a voyage of self-discovery. So asking basic questions that you can get on the net will dismiss you to the customer as irrelevant and will be seen as ineptitude. 5 minutes spent with an ill-equipped salesperson is like 2 hours of wasted effort, and for the buyer will drag on relentlessly. So unless the customer is instantly engaged and thinking, wow, this person knows stuff that I really need to understand. So salespeople have to wake up to the new reality and step up. They need to be asking the right questions at the right time. The challenge then for the salesperson is to provide benefits such that they outweigh the investment the customer is making in the sales experience. So the first question a salesperson needs to ask themselves is, what do I know from experience to be the types of problems that come up in this particular industry? And problems can come in all shapes and sizes, and we don't know the extent of them until we ask. So the need for resolution is the vital point. Unresolved, the problem cascades and affects the bottom line. So through questioning, the salesperson can look for problems that lurk beneath the surface that are not immediately apparent. If the customer can't see them, they can't solve them. So enter the 21st century salesperson. Sellers must understand their industry and the nature of their business, and then how particular problems common in the industry affect their business. Add the questioning skills to the mix, and then you have a recipe for genuine customer discovery. So where a salesperson adds value is where they can bring to the customer an unrecognized problem that they can solve, or an unanticipated solution, or a way for the customer to make changes to their business that grows their revenue or market share or decreases their costs. So being number one isn't what we're talking about. Customers don't care about that. It's that they've taught the customer something they didn't know previously and that they can solve.
And what are some of the most common mistakes that salespeople make?
So the biggest missing ingredient I've seen over the years is consistently the same. Salespeople vary in terms of expertise, and no matter how much experience they may have in their respective companies, how much tenure they've had, the large majority struggle with business acumen. So while they might understand their product or service, they rarely understand the customer's business and what the customer's issues might be. So the decision makers they're talking to are hyper-focused on things like improving their results, employing strategies that will help their business grow revenue, increasing market share, countering competitive threats, acquiring new customers, customer loyalty and retention, improving their margins, decreasing their costs, managing risk, shareholder value, and attracting and retaining skilled staff, and improving workforce productivity. So one thing's certain, if you can't clearly prove that what you're selling will help the decision maker improve in at least one of these areas, then you need not waste your time or theirs calling on the C-suite. They just won't want to see you. However, if you can show that your offering will enhance results in these key strategic areas, then you're in the game.
Do great salespeople always make great sales managers? And if not, why not?
So sometimes it depends on the salesperson themselves. In one sense, they get what's required. They understand the ropes, having been at the cold face themselves. So they have the practical experience to be able to help out their teams in that sense. But that said, many salespeople have always operated as lone wolves and running the race on their own, and they're not used to pulling a team along behind them. They may not have the diplomacy and management skills to lead a team.
What are some of the most important lessons that you've learned about sales management?
So I think there are a number of factors. I think the most important thing in sales management is the ability to inspire others to achieve the shared objective. You can't achieve that if the team are not on the journey with you. To inspire people, you need to be inspired yourself. So find out what inspires you. There's a clip by Simon Sinek about discovering your why, which is fantastic. And very few companies actually do that. The what and the how then follow. Then it's about understanding your environment, the expectations of you and of your team and of each other, and setting objectives accordingly. Strategy is a really important one. It has to be clear across the entire organization, between all stakeholders and from the top down, so that everybody knows what the organization's objectives are and you're all in it and you'll understand it and live it and breathe it. I've seen organizations where that's not the case and everybody's got mixed messages and confused, and strategies change and implementing those strategies changes, and everyone's got different opinions about how to achieve them. And it just becomes a shambles. So a house divided in itself cannot stand. It has to be consistent and all the way down through the organization. I think it's also important to give your team the ability to be courageous, to take intelligent risks, to feel safe to contribute and offer opinions, and know it's okay to make mistakes. Often it's by trying and failing we stumble on the right way to do things and achieve the growth. So treat your team respectfully, be consistent with your leadership voice, be supportive, celebrate their successes, value their opinions. They say that your biggest relationship outside of your family is with your work, and so by that, the sales team are your second family.